Hello, my name is Hope from the platform of eSeniors.org. eSeniors is a non-for-profit organization that provides virtual companion for seniors from age 60 and above. Virtual companion is basically designed to provide emotional support for seniors who feel lonely and isolated from their communities, and this is done remotely through the usage of video chat technology. So today, I want to especially welcome you all to today's book reading section. We have been reading a book from Buchi Emichita titled Second Class Citizen. We are still on chapter 1, so we're going to be starting off from where we stopped. Listen as I read. The chief policeman considered this flower, then looked once more at Ma, cupping the gari to her mouth with her fingers and smiled. He took pity on Ma, but warned her that if such a thing could happen again, he personally would take her to the court. You know what that means, be, be thundered. Ma nodded. She knew court meant two things: a heavy fine, which she would never be able to afford, or prison, which she called prison. They advised her to sell one of her colorful lappers and send Ada to school because she looked like a child who was keen to learn. At this point, Ma gave Ada a quizzical look, a look that contained a mixture of fear, love, and wonder. Ada thanked back. Ada shrank back, still clutching Mr. Cooley. When they got home from the station, the news had already got round. Ada had nearly sent her mother to prison. So frequently was this sentence repeated that Ada began to be quite proud of her impulsive move. She felt triumphant, especially when she heard Pa's friend advising him to make sure he allowed Ada to start school soon. This discussion took place on the veranda where the visitors were dining two kegs of palm wine to wet their parched throats. When they departed, Ada was left alone with her parents. Things were not as bad as they thought they would be. Pa fished out the cane and gave her a few strokes for Ma's benefit. Ada did not mind that because they were not hard strokes. Maybe Pa had been mellowed by the talks with his friends, because when Ada cried after the caning, he came and talked to her seriously, just as if she was a grown-up. He called her by her pet name, Nena, which means father's mother, which was not so far from the meaning of Ada's real name. How she came by that name was a story in itself. When Pa's mother was dying, she had promised Pa that she would come again, this time as his daughter. She was sorry she could not bring him up She died when Pa was only 5. She would come again. She had promised to compensate for leaving him so young. Well, Pa grew up and married Ma at the Christ Church in Lagos, which was a Christian church, but Pa did not forget his mother promise. The only reservation he had was that he did not want a girl, excuse me, for his first child. Well, his mother was impatient. Ma had a girl. Pa thought Ada was the very picture of his mother, even though Ada was born 2 months prematurely. He was quite positive that the little damn monkey-like things which unformed face was his comeback mother. So she was loaded with strings of names: Nena, Adanna, Adaeze. Adaeze means princess, daughter of a king. Sometimes they call her Adaeze, sometimes Adanna, and sometimes Nena. But this string of names was too long and too confusing for Ada's Yoruba friend and playmate, and even more so for impatient mom. So she became just Ada. She didn't mind this. It was short. Everybody could pronounce it. When she grew up and was attending the Methodist Girls High School in Lagos, where she came in contact with European missionaries. Her name was one of the first ones they learned and pronounced correctly. These usually gave her a star against the other girls with long names like Adabisi, Memoso, or Oluwa Fumilola, or Olorun Shogo. So that was how Ada started school. Pa would not hear of her going to Methodist primary. She was to go to the posh one. Ladylike success in life would surely have come earlier to her if Pa had lived, but he died soon after, and Ada and her mother boy was transferred to an inferior school. Despite all this, Ada's dream never left her. It was understandable that Ma refused to take her to see the new lawyer because Ada had started school only a few weeks before the preparation for the great man's arrival. Ma got really furious with Ada for asking such a thing. You made me drink Gary only last month until I nearly burst my stomach, all because you said you wanted school. Now we gave you school. You want the wolf. No, you won't go. You chose school. To school you must go from now until you go grey. How right Ma was. Ada would never stop learning. She had been a student ever since. Ada's face had fallen at this. If only she had known before, she would have staged her school drama after the travel of lawyer Nweze, but as it turned out, she missed little. The women practiced their songs several times and showed off their uniform, to which they had given the name Eze DJ, Jide Ogole, Oma Oba, meaning when a good man holds a woman, she becomes a queen. They wove the name of the uniform into the song, and it was a joy to hear and see these women happy in their innocence, just like children. Their ones were simple and easily met, not like those of their children who later got caught up in the entangled web of industrialization. Ada Ma had no experience of having to keep up mortgage payment. She never knew what it was to have a family car or worry about it in house. She had no worries about pollution. The population exclusion or risk was unsurprising. Sorry. She had no worries about pollution. The population explosion or risk. Was it surprising, therefore, that she was happy, being on her way of the so-called joys of civilization and all its pitfalls? They went to the wharf that day. These happy women so welcomed someone who had been to have a taste of that civilization. The civilization was the civilization which was soon afterwards to book them all like opium. That day they were happy to welcome their man. They went in their new uniform. Ada still remembered its color. It had a dark, wealthy background with pale blue drawings of feather on it. The head scarf was red, and it was tied in such a way that it displayed their straightening hair. The shoes they wore were of black pattern leather called 99. No one really knew why. Maybe it was the redeem of the competition. In any case, they wore those 99 shoes with their Izediliji Ogolo Oma Oba and bought new gourds which they covered with colorful beads. When these gourds were rattled, they produced sounds like the Spanish samba with a wide sort of animal overtone. They had a good time, as I was told later. They danced happily at the wharf, shaking their colorful gowns in the air. The European arrival gaped at them. They had never seen anything like it before. The climax of it all was when an Englishman took her photographs. He even singled out women with babies on their back and took several shots of them. Ma and her friends were really happy to have their pictures taken by Europeans. These were the days before Nigerian independence, when nearly everybody but from England brought hundreds of English graduates and doctors to work in the schools and hospitals of Lagos. The few gaps in the magical story of Nweze's arrival were filled in by Pa. All the Ibuza men went to welcome him the following Sunday. They could not leave their places of work during the week. Pa said that the lawyer could not swallow pounded yam anymore. He could not even eat a piece of bone. The meat they cooked for him had to be stewed for days until it was almost a pulp. I felt like being sick, Pa said as he spat on the floor. He reminded me of the sticky, watery food we ate in the army. There is one thing, though, Pa went on. He did not bring a white woman with him. All Pa's friends agree with him that that was a good thing. If Nweze had brought a white woman to Ibuza, Oboshi would have sent leprosy on her. Remembering all these tattoos and superstition of the western Igbos of Nigeria, Ada could not help laughing to herself. She had been brought up with them. They were part of her. Yet now, in the 70s, the thought of them amused her. The thought of them amused her. The funniest thing about all these superstitions and beliefs was that they still had a doleful grip on the minds of her people. No one dare ignore any of them. Leprosy was a disease with which the goddess of the biggest river in Ibuza cursed anyone who dared to flaunt one of the town's traditions. Well, Pa and his friend toasted the goddess of the river, Oboshi, for not allowing lawyer Nweze to go astray. That Oboshi was strong enough to guide the thoughts of Nweze, demonstrated her power. They toasted her again. Later, Ada did not know what came over that river Oboshi, though oil was discovered very near her and she allowed the ointment to dig into her without causing them with leprosy. The oilmen were mainly white, which was a surprise, or perhaps she had long been declared reluctant by the greater gods. That would not have surprised her, for everybody could be declared redundant these days. Even goddess, if not redundant, then she must have been in Rip Van Winkle's sleep, for she also allowed the householders to come and massacre her sons. And some Ibuza men had married white women without getting the person. Only last year, an Ibuza girl graduated and married a white American. So, Oboshi was faster than most of her sons and daughters at catching up with the times. Anyways, the talk about Nweze arrival went on for months and months. Ada talked about him to all her friends at school, telling them that he was her cousin. Well, everybody else talked big, so she might as well. But she made a secret vow to herself that she would go to this United Kingdom one day. Her arrival there would be the pinnacle of her ambition. So she dared not tell anyone. They might decide to have her head examined or something. A small girl of her age, kind, with a father who was only a railway man and a mother who knew nothing but the Igbo Bible and the Igbo Anglican hymn book from the introduction to the index, and who still thought that Jerusalem was at the right hand of God. That she would go to the United Kingdom one day was a dream she kept to herself, but dreams soon assumed substance. It lived with her just like a presence. So now we're moving to chapter 2, titled Escaped into Elitism. This is it. I hope you can see it clearly. Escape into elitism. So I read, most dreams, as all dreamers know quite well, do have setbacks. Ada's dream was so exceptional, for hers had meaning. The first hinge happened all of a sudden. Just a few months after she started school, Pa went to the hospital for something. She would not remember what. Then someone, she was not quite sure, who it was, told her that Pa was staying there for a few days. A week or two later, Pa was brought home a corpse. After that, things moved so fast that sometimes got them confused. Ada, like most girls' orphans, Ada, like most girl orphans, was to live with her mother's older brother as a servant. Ma was inherited by Pa's brother, and boy was to live with one of Pa's cousin. It was decided that the money in the family, £100 or two, would be spent on boy's education. So boy was cut out for a bright future with a grammar school education and all that. And that schooling would have been stopped. But somebody pointed out that the longer she stayed at school, the bigger the dowry her future husband would pay for her. After all, she was too young for marriage at that age of 9 or so, and moreover, the extra money she would fetch would tide boy over. So, for the time being, Ada stayed at school. Ada missed her old friends, the cleanliness, the orderliness, and the brightness, but she could not continue there. The fee was almost 6 times the cost of the others, and she had to get herself used to an older and noisier school. Otherwise, she would not be allowed to go to school at all. But she had gained something from her short stay at Lady Lac, a very good and sound beginning, which put her ahead of her new class. Her effort amused her cousins greatly. They regarded her as a funny little girl. She was glad, though, that they mercifully left her to dream after she had done her day's work. The day's work, Jesus, her day started at 4:30 in the morning on the veranda of her new home in Park Street. There were there was a mighty drum used as a water container, and Ada had to fill this with water before going to school. This usually meant making 10 to 12 trips to the public pump, as those public monstrosities were called in those days. In Ada's new family, there was Ma's brother who worked in the dockyard at the marina, his old wife, a quiet, retiring woman who was a shadow to her autocratic husband, and their four mighty sons, all grown up. One was married with a young daughter, one was working as a clerk in the treasury, one was an artist who would stay at home and sing all day long. The youngest was at a finishing school, so Park death was a blessing to them, for it meant they could have others as an unpaid servant to help in this bustling household. All these people occupied only one room and a veranda, yet the house had 10 rooms. One could imagine the number of households that dependent on the pump at Pike Street, for it served 8 other streets as well. It was always a case of first come, first serve. By 7 or 8 in the morning, there were usually fights. Mental buckets were thrown in the air, fists drawn, and clothes torn. To avoid this rush, Ada was usually woken up at 4:30. Her being up so early was also a great help to her new pa and master. He went to work by 6:30 in the morning, and Ada had to be there to get him his odds and ends. So I want to especially say thank you for listening. So this we are going to be ending today's book reading section. Till we meet again in the next one. Thank you and bye bye.